news. Sources say their star pass rusher, Haason Reddick, has received permission to seek a trade. The Eagles, of course, acquired him in free agency, double-digit sacks both of the last 2 years. A Pro Bowler, been one of the best players off the edge, wants to get paid again. Do not be surprised if he gets paid elsewhere, a potential big-time addition somewhere in the NFL.
Why is he working? Excuse me? Welcome back. Midday Show. Hugh Douglas, Joe Giglio. All right, we have a little Eagles news, and not great news. Yesterday, before the game started, there was Ian Rappaport talking about Haason Reddick. So the Eagles have given him permission to seek a trade, which is a little bit similar to what we saw with Darius Slay last March. He eventually ended up back here. I'm not sure if Reddick is going to end up back here, but I don't think they should trade him. Like, I understand he's probably a malcontent right now. He wants more money. I remember the discussion we had last summer. Remember when he wasn't practicing?
Yes.
It was like, should they adjust his contract?
They had a little finger or something.
Yeah,
finger.
And then he played pretty good this year. Not as good as last year, but some of that was coaching end of the season. They had him dropping back. Here's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at a defense right now that has, 3 or 4 good players.
And he was one of them.
He's one of them. So I'm not trading him away. He could be as unhappy as he wants. He's under contract. I would keep him. Hugh, what do you think on this? Because this is about to become a major Eagle story.
Like Chris say, allow me to cook a little bit, Joe.
Go ahead,
because the best part about this story for me is that I had the whole weekend to kind of mill it over a little bit. And I was kind of like you in the beginning. Because I was thinking, like, man, why does he want to leave? We're seeking a trade. And then I got to thinking about, like, pass rushers and how hard they are to find and everything. And I was trying to figure out what category would you put Haason Reddick is. I think he's more in the category of a Micah Parsons, like an edge guy that doesn't play the run that great, instead of a Myles Garrett, an all-around defensive end. And I got to thinking, why would they grant him a trade? And I was like, yeah, it might be because he was a bit of a – and I don't know this to be true. And I'm going – like, I'm going to tie this up for you in a minute if you give me a moment. But I was just going back in the history of like, malcontent pass rushers and being traded from teams that, they felt like they were a cancer room. And one name jumped in my head immediately. And I was like, hey, that's you. That's who you were.
You see yourself.
When you were in New York. Because I never get – because Jeffrey Lurie loves to tell me this story all the time. And he was like, yeah, when we got you from New York, they didn't think you were going to amount to much. They thought because you were malcontent, yada, yada, yada. And I got to thinking, I'm like, if they're allowing him to request a trade or grant a trade, then he must be, and again, I don't know this for certain, this is me speculating, that there must be something going on. And then it's not like my assessment isn't warranted, because there was some conversation that was had in the offseason about him and not being happy and, things of that nature. So maybe that's the case. I don't know, but it's just weird that you're willing to trade away pass rushers like that, especially in this league where it's a passing league and you got to get to the quarterback.
So you would trade him if he didn't want to be here?
I think if you can't – the one thing about it, if you don't want to be here, you can't make anybody be here. I mean, it's one of those things. You got to be happy where you're playing.
Well, I understand that, and Hugh, that's an interesting comment.
Money does make them happy.
Of course. And he wanted that last summer, and they didn't do it. And they did draft Nolan Smith in the first round, I think, in part because they knew this was coming. 215-592-9494. Look, I don't like keeping unhappy players. If you don't want to be here, I'm usually in the camp of, all right, let's just move on from this guy, and maybe I'll get there. But as of today, after watching the Super Bowl last night, after watching Nick Bosa
He's like, no, don't let him go.
I watched Bosa get 10 pressures last night. Chris Jones wrecked that game for the 49ers offense, really from start to finish. We don't have enough good defensive players. If we lose this guy,
can I throw a name?
Man, they don't have enough.
Can I throw a name out there?
Go ahead.
That's probably going to give a whole bunch of people heartburn when I say it.
Sure.
Nolan Smith.
You think he's ready?
He has to be.
He has to be, and
like,
is
when I look at potential. Let me just potential alone, because I feel like coaching matters, and especially now when we're talking about potentially moving on from a really good pass rush who gave you 20-some-odd sacks in the 2 seasons that he was here.
I think over 30 when you add it up.
My bad,
maybe around
30. But you know me and math. You know what I'm saying. I'm always fall back on that one. But I think that if he's coached up, he could be that guy. He could be somebody that can be very, very disruptive in the passing game. I've seen flashes of it, but it's just, to me, like he's almost like a super fast car with bad brakes. Like you need, yeah. You You need to kind of coach him up a little bit. I think he can be somebody who, if we get the right coaching staff here, because coaching matters, man. And I think that was one of the biggest things that we lacked last year outside of the talent. Talent was a big deal, but I think the fact that guys looked like they weren't being coached up, either they weren't being coached up or they weren't receiving the coaching that they were given. I think if you give him that ability or give him that, he'll be a better player. So, yeah, I'm willing to let Haason Reddick go.
Ooh, boy, I am worried about this. 215-592-9494. I'm not surprised we're here. I remember the conversation we had in August about should they redo the contract, should they not. This day was probably inevitable because he doesn't feel like he's paid on the level he is. By the way, it's 27 sacks as an Eagle. When you add the playoffs in last year, he's at 30.5. So it's a lot. I mean, he's had a big 2 years as an Eagle. I think he's underpaid for the player he is. He'd be willing to move on. I'm telling him no. Like you're under contract. You're coming back, or if you want to hold out, cool. Just miss a year and don't get the free agency the next year and don't get your money. Kyle, where are you as the Ian Rappaport set off a bomb yesterday that Haason Reddick is being allowed to seek a trade?
I think it is insane to be okay with letting Haason Reddick go. He's the best player on this defense. You don't let 16.5 sacks at his peak walk out the door. He's got a lot of great football left in him. I am not confident that Nolan Smith is going to just step right in and be the Haason Reddick. Like, we had this discussion a little bit last week. How can the Eagles get back to being competitive? Like, closer to parade, rebuild? How far away is the defense? It's hinging on Haason Reddick. If Haason Reddick's here, the defense is a lot closer than I think people want to give it credit for. And if Haason Reddick's gone, we are screwed. We are not competing for a Super Bowl next season if Haason Reddick is not here. So they need to do whatever it takes to make this right with him.
I don't know, Kyle. I hear what you're saying. Like, as far as like, and I can't believe I'm about to say this because I did not like playing the run when I had to play.
Well, that's why he reminds you of you.
But
you see him.
But he was a liability in the run game, man. Like, I love Haason, but let's just we're being real here and not saying, and I'm not sitting here trying to say that having Nolan Smith out there, he's going to be a better run player. I'm not saying that. But if you're talking about, like, I'm just looking at it from a production standpoint. If we figure out a way, because we still have the personnel, we can run a 3-4 defense, and we can move guys around, and we could make it so that like Nolan won't be such a liability in the run game. So you take some of that pressure off of him. Well, but in the passing game, I think we can make up for that. I really do.
I just think you don't pay Haason Reddick, or you're going to pay Haason Reddick to be a run star. Like, was our run defense bad because Haason Reddick, or because Jordan Davis is overweight, or because Nakobe Dean couldn't fill the gap? Like, I put that more on the guys that I think are meant to stop that than our pure pass rusher, Haason Reddick. Like, that's what he does best. We're dropping him into coverage, dude.
There's something to that. I mean, I'm not going to lie. There's something to that. But I also feel like here's what's going on with the Eagles right now. We got a lot of cats that we're going to have to pay. We're going to have to go into free agency and try to figure out some of these holes. Like I've been a big advocate for letting the young guys play. You know that. You know how I feel about that, Joe, and I've been saying that for the last couple of weeks, man. But the reality of the situation is you're going to have to go in free agency and pay somebody. And you're going to have to overpay. Then you got to pay Skinny Batman. We got a lot of money.
Oh, pay more offense.
No,
I'm
just saying, Joe. I'm just saying. This is where we are. This is what our genius Howie has. This is where we are. And we have to do a better job of coaching up these young cats, man. We can't have everything. Everything that we need in the offseason, we're not going to be able to afford. So it's just like when you're building a race car. Are you going to go get the engine or you going to get the air filter? Like, you know what I mean? Which one is more important? Which one's going to give you more horsepower? You going to change out the hoses or all this other stuff? There's ways that you can still get bang for your buck if you're in a race car instead of just purchasing an engine all the time.
You can, and you could find different
ways. Get you some good timing belts, some good pulleys and whatnot.
I'm just worried we have no tires
on this
car.
Get you one of them can-in air filters.
There's no brakes on this thing. We can't stop anything.
All right. You better get them brakes first.
Yeah, you need some brakes. All right, 215-592-9494. For your reaction to the Haason Reddick report yesterday, I wouldn't trade him. Hugh would be open to the idea of a trade.